Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on our inaugural Elation Studios podcast or videocast, I guess. Hi, I'm Fakul, otherwise known as Fox in the Telegram chat and across the social media platforms. And we also have Troy Tohid, otherwise known as TT. Hey Troy, do you want to say hello?
Hey everybody.
Cool, thanks. And I guess, first of all, before we get into it, I just want to thank everyone on behalf of Elation Studios for voting for us and getting us into the CR Council. We certainly couldn't have done it without you. So thanks everyone that voted.
Thank you.
So this is our first, so hopefully you'll have to forgive us if we have any hiccups, but we've got a bit of a packed agenda, and we'll start off with introductions. I will attempt to chair this video cast, but ideally we want to keep it somewhat informal and engaging for the community. So yeah, let's crack on. So let's start with introductions. Maybe Troy, if you could just quickly introduce yourself, and then I'll try and do the same.
Yep. So hi, as Fakul's already said, my name's Troy Tohid. I just go by TT in the community. Let's see. So I'm in the banking industry. I currently work at Morgan Stanley. I'm an executive director, based in London at the moment, but interestingly enough, I'm relocating to India. So I'm going to be moving to Asia in September, where I'll be responsible for running our equities and fixed income kind of cash processing unit. So very operational in nature, running a team of maybe 80 individuals at the moment, growing to about 150. So definitely a large organization, skill sets in managing large teams, understanding processes, driving change, anything you might expect within an operational arm at a bank. So I've been in the industry, or I've been working for maybe, I don't know, 15 years, maybe. I started my career as a consultant coming out of school in California and San Francisco with Deloitte & Touche, focusing in risk. I did that for about 5 years, and then, well, 4.5, 5 years. And then with Deloitte, I moved to the United Arab Emirates, where I lived and worked out of Abu Dhabi and Dubai for about 3 years. From there, one hell of an experience, but maybe we can save that for a different video. From there, I moved to New York, where I then got a job working at Citibank briefly. Worked at Citibank for about 1.5 years, where then I moved into Morgan Stanley. So I started my career with Morgan Stanley on the wealth management side, covering off on products like alternative investments, mutual funds, retirement services. And from there, I don't know, two years maybe later, moved into the institutional business. So wealth is very separate from our institutional clients. And in New York, moved into our institutional business, covering off on risk. So I was the global head of operational risk for our client operations. So derivative clearing, prime brokerage, margin, client onboarding, and a couple other areas. I covered off on risk for the head of our global client operations sort of head.
I remember you giving me a hard time.
Sorry?
I remember you giving me a hard time.
Fakul ran our margin group globally, Margin Moore's group, which he'll get to shortly. So he definitely heard from me a fair bit. As you might expect, there's a lot of risk in that area. I'd like to think I was somewhat liked. Yeah, it's like risk, and you're bothering people, but I like to think I did it okay.
Bothering us for the right reasons.
Say that again.
Bothering us for the right reasons.
Yeah. Thank you. He didn't enjoy it. So I did that for a few years, and then I kind of sat down with the head of client ops, and I wanted to sort of pivot my career a bit, get out of risk. I wanted to get more client facing. I wanted to get more front office facing. So there was an opportunity that the head of client ops had highlighted to me, which was in a different country, which was in London, which was becoming the European head of client services for derivative clearing. So our product class of derivative clearing, if we had clients that cleared with us, I became the head of Europe for our client service reps for that. So anyways, I know I'm kind of sorry if I'm going on far longer than I think you wanted me to, but so I've been doing that now for about 3 years, which I've just pivoted out of and into my new role, which has me, as I said, going to India to head up our Asia group for equities and fixed income cash processing. Sorry, thank you.
A bit of a mouthful, but no, I'm sure the community is interested in your journey, Troy, to finding Elastos and the Sierra Republic.
Oh,
I guess.
Should I get into that? I completely missed it.
You know what? No, we don't. Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. But let me quickly introduce myself. Unfortunately, my story is a lot more boring, and then we can talk about how we found Elastos and the Cyber Republic. So I guess, yeah, just by way of introduction, I'm Fakul, otherwise known as Fox. I have worked with Morgan Stanley, God, I think 13 years now. I actually joined as a graduate from college or university for us here in London. Born and bred locally to the office, and I've spent pretty much my entire career in what is known as the margin financing and risk operations team. So started off as a lowly analyst and was fortunate enough to work my way to the top and become the global head with teams spanning across North America, Europe, and Asia. And predominantly we're responsible for monitoring prime brokerage, wealth management, and some other like employee funds, making sure that margin loans that are offered to clients are adequately collateralized. So my specialty or my background is very much around risk management, predominantly counterparty risk management, market risk, some credit, and operational risk. But yeah, it's certainly something I've enjoyed. I took a bit of a career break during COVID and decided to come back to the firm. And now I am heading up the European client service group for derivatives clearing, which for those who are listening, is Troy's old role. So yeah, hey. I've kind of taken on Troy's role.
That's how I pulled you in. That's how I pulled you into this Elastos thing.
And I think this is a perfect segue into how we got pulled into Elastos. So I guess Troy, I'll hand it over to you as a veteran of the.
Oh, veteran! I can't take that credit. I mean, in the amount of time that you've sort of been on the Elastos, whatever you want to call it, boat, ship, I don't care what we call it, but you have already by far from a technical standpoint, you know, met and surpassed my my knowledge, my capability. But yeah, so I was joined in the ICO. It's actually when I first got into the market, the crypto space back in 2017. And I was just all over the place, man. I was looking at every freaking coin, and I did my research, right, as they say. Yeah. And it was through that research that I came across the Elastos and the Elastos ICO. And as I just started, like, read through the white paper front to back, and I was just blown away by what this group was trying to do, what the foundation was trying to do. I was blown away. There was really no one and I do my research, and there was really no other project that was really out there that was focusing on this at the time. You know, since a lot have sprung up and they've tried to do elements of what Elastos has achieved and is nearing to achieve and has future plans to. But yeah, it was by far and away an obvious, hey, I gotta get involved in this. So anyways, back in the ICO, did the whole whitelisting, joined in January 2018, which is when it was. And then sort of, I'm sure we all lived it who were back there. That immediate listing on Huobi and the shot up to, I don't know what it hit. It was like 90. It was like, it was nice. It was a very exciting moment. And then immediately with all the FUD and the bans from Korea to China, I mean, it was just incredible watching that market crash. Incredible. And it hurt. I'm not gonna lie, it hurt. But yeah, stuck through it. Still had, you know, belief in the kind of Elastos idea. It was reassuring to see those biweekly updates continuing to come out. It was really, just, I don't know. I was going to use the word of a turtle. It's like a turtle just putting the head in and continuing to do its thing and powering through the storm. But that's kind of what the foundation did, is they just kept working. They made some really good financial decisions kind of at the peak of that with the Bitcoin, converting it to whatever that they did, which allowed them to be able to continue. And, 3 years later now, is it 3 years, no, 3.5 years later now, they've managed to really deliver a lot. Is it kind of everything? They had to make some pivots, right? Necessary pivots. But I don't think they've forgotten about some of the things that they want to achieve. And, I think they'll come back to it. Not to foreshadow anything, because I know we got a big agenda, but you and I had that call with Wrong, which Orchard was very much a part of. What I thought was going to be a 1 hour meeting, literally, was it 3 or 4?
It was over 3 hours. I remember my wife calling me. I could see the messages. Saying, when are you coming home? But no, it was worthwhile. It was a great 3 hours. Time.
Certainly some passionate moments from Wrong, everybody, but it was good to see that vibrancy, that fire, which is still in Wrong.
And I think that's sometimes lost in in social media platforms, Telegram chats, Twitter. You may not realize it, but I think I certainly feel like how he came across in those 3 hours. It was like highly passionate, really vested in Elastos, the platform, and making a success. He almost treats it like his child, trying to grow it, nurture it, and get it ready to send it off to the big wild world. So I think some community members may not necessarily see it, but he certainly has a vested interest, and it's clear he thinks a lot about it, and he's trying to do the best for for the platform, but also the community. He does care about the community. I think that goes without saying.
Yeah, and so I think through that fire, through that motivation that he has, I think is really what drove through the 2018, the 2019, and just keeping the head down and developing and just kind of doing that. I have my thoughts around marketing, which we'll get to, and let me rephrase. Let me step back. I have my sort of things that I absolutely agree with and fully am behind Wrong, and I have those things that I kind of have different views. But through that 3 hour conversation, I mean, we were able to have that kind of conversation, which was great. I'm sort of losing my point, but so 3 years, eventually when Fakul, long story short, came in to take my role within the European client service group. You weren't even in crypto. You weren't even Elastos. You weren't even in it.
I wasn't. God, I remember, when you was looking at ICOs, I was laughing. I think, obviously I can't speak too much about it, but I think late 2017, early 2018, from a risk perspective, we were looking at, elements of crypto, specifically BTC. I think there was an interest in clients wanting to trade, Bitcoin products. And, I looked at them personally. I thought, what, you're nuts. There's no liquidity here. Price is highly volatile. You're just going to lose your money. And then I kept a somewhat distant eye on it over the years. And I think, you saw what happened with GameStop, and then you saw Doge, and then you saw everything else and Ethereum. And then I think, we were just casually having a chat, and you started talking about it. And look, if there's one person that can sell the Elastos vision, it's TT. It was literally a little segue. We started talking about Bitcoin, and I said Doge, and you laughed at me for a while. And then you said, oh, Elastos, go and have a look at this. And then what did you mention? You said,
well, yeah, I mean, I put you on the trail, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, I try to bring a lot of people into the game and into game. I bring them into the industry, and I need to test them out. I need to see if they're actually going to dedicate some time to it and if they're really interested in it. So I actually don't put a lot of time and effort into it in the beginning, but I point you to resources. So I pointed you to Elastos and to like their resource page. I gave you a few things to read, and you read them. and you came back to me like literally the next day, and you were like a, I don't know, like a 10-year-old on Christmas Day. You were like really excited about it.
It was crazy. I remember I was reading the white paper, I was digging in. I was like, oh, I need more information. I couldn't find it. I was nagging you with questions. I think like within a day, I was buying Elastos. Within a few days, we were staking on Fielder, learning about impermanent loss. It was crazy. It was it was literally going down the rabbit hole. But I think what happened then. I think over the coming months. So this was what, back in February, late February, early March,
somewhere around there. Yeah, it was. Like right as Filda was coming out, just after.
And then I think we started talking about it a lot more, started to engage slowly with the community, wrapped up, and then at some point we realized, hey, we have some skills, maybe we can help the community. And then I think a lot of what the community were looking to do, a lot of the vision, it resonated with us. And I think one day we decided, hey, why not run for Cyber Republic Council? There weren't a huge number of candidates at the time, and we thought, let's throw a hat in there. Let's put something together. We gave it some thought over a few days. We wrote something, shared it with the community, and then waited on feedback. And I think there was an element of unknown. Not too many people knew us. I think a shout out to Sash. I think I'd speaking to him, I'd sidebarred with him on a couple of things, and he was always open and gave me a lot of information, and he said, go for it, why not, what's the worst can happen? But yeah, I think it was great. And then we came up with the name Elation Studios, registered, and then fortunately enough, enough people drank our Kool-Aid and voted us in. And then what happened, I guess, maybe Troy, do you want to talk a little bit about what was our vision? What is our vision right now for Elastos?
Our vision for Elastos. I mean, I'm not struggling to think of what it is. I'm struggling to think of how to tackle it, because the vision's actually quite large, but it's really not. It's very pointed. But there are a lot of things that we want to do to get to that. So I'm just thinking, do I want to start in the back and then get back up to the, or start in the end and get to, you don't need to that was embarrassing how my mind
works. The one word you always say to me whenever I talk about Elastos, what do you say? Utility.
Yeah, awareness. We can start with that. Utility and awareness. So, thank you for cool. I was very much a speculator. I mean, I still am a speculative trader. And so price is of course it's important. I have a share in Elastos. I absolutely want to see Elastos to rise, but I want to see it rise for the right reasons, and I want to see it rise in a sustainable way, to where it's not necessarily driven purely by speculation, where investors are coming in, trading in it to drive up the price, make a little bit of money and then sell it off and get out, and the price tanks. And that's where the utility comes in, and that's where the kind of app development comes in, and the awareness, which is, if we can get real utility on the Elastos coin, if we can get people coming in and needing the ELA to be able to operate on an app, to operate on a platform, to do whatever it is, that forces people on a regular and consistent way going into the market to purchase it, which creates price movement in an upward trajectory. If you don't have that utility, you are beholden to the speculators who are purely coming in and selling. What we need is that utility that is going to continue to, what's the word? I don't know, eat up that downward selling pressure from the speculators and the investors, to keep the price up gradually, more and more and more. So from my perspective, and I know we ran on, one of our pillars that we ran on was around marketing. And to me, I say marketing, but to me, it means awareness. To me, it means, how can we go out into the industry? How can we, and I'll get to it in a second, but even the world, which is silly, look at how can we create an awareness of Elastos? Because frankly, it's not there. It's not. You look at these, influencers who are writing articles, or you look at papers that come out, you look at whatever it is that are talking about Web3 and all a comparison of platforms. Who was it that did that? It was they probably left us off for a reason, but the Definity, and they did that interview of kind of the community suggesting three platforms to assess and look at. And they just didn't even look at us. And while we were on the list, which was nice, so many of these other comparisons, Elastos is not even mentioned. And it's because of the awareness. And it's a problem, because if we want to generate utility, if we want to create that sort of support for sort of downward speculative movement, we need to have that utility. And the reason how do you get that utility is through the awareness, but really it's development. It's app development. It's getting third parties like Tomb, like DMA, like others, forgive me if I didn't mention you, that are building on Elastos so that there is a need to have the ELA. I don't want to kind of stress the point there, but that's an element of it, which is how do we target these developers? The other element is then once you have apps built, well, great, but you need users. You need users of those apps, because that's really the utility. The app gives you the vehicle or the mechanism to give that support for the price. But really what generates that utility are the users. So it's kind of, in my view, and in the marketing RFP that you and I are working on, shout out to Donnie, who's given us some insight as well, and we'll continue to, and then ultimately we'll present it to the CRC. But and I know I'm going on, so my complete apologies. But with the RFP, really our target is 1, developers, and then 2, users once those apps are built. I don't know. I mean, please build on that, Fakul.
No, I agree. I think it's, just looking at price is pure short-termism. What's the point in pumping and dumping a coin? We believe in the vision. I like to think that the way we're structured is, I'm the technical guy, you're the business lead. You kind of, we talk and you're like, yep, this is what we should do. And then we kind of take it forward. And I think, the biggest challenge is the technology is amazing. The core teams, you mentioned a few, also Trinity, Galaxy, etc. They've built some phenomenal technology and they keep on improving it. We're already up to 2.0 versions of things like Deed and sidechains, etc. So we're at a point now where I think we can go out and start actively attracting third-party developers. I think that's the gap. If I think back, the core teams are either building the core infrastructure or they're building the apps, things like Profile, etc. It's great, but we need more people outside of our immediate Elastos family, or the nation, as we like to call it, the Elastos Nation, Elation. We need to attract those. And how do you do that? There's a number of different ways of doing it. And I think that's exactly what we're trying to target with that RFP. And maybe if you want to dig in a bit deeper, what are the different steps of the RFP, Troy, that we're looking to tackle?
Really? Yeah, on that spot.
The community constantly asks me what's going on with the marketing.
You should have prepped me. That's cool. Should have prepped me. All right, let's see.
So I think, I will help you here a little bit, Troy. I think in terms of our website, and a brand new website, guys, please have a look, elationstudios.net. Our milestones, we've listed them, but the last milestone that I've listed so far is the draft version of the RFP ready to share with the council, and that's due at the end of the month.
Yes, whatever you just said. Looking at my notes.
Maybe talk a bit about, what are the different things?
When it comes to the RFP.
What is an RFP? Troy, what is an RFP? Not everyone knows what an RFP is.
Fine. Debate. So yeah, so an RFP is a request for proposal. The idea behind an RFP or a request for proposal is we essentially draft out what our requirements are. For those of you that are in tech, maybe you're familiar with the BRD, business requirements document. It's kind of very similar to that, which is we essentially list out what do we want from an agency to provide to us. It'll have all the legal terms and sort of kind of that whole mumbo jumbo side of it. But the real heart and core of it is what are we expecting, or what do we want this marketing agency to deliver for us? And so we are requesting then for these agencies to give us a proposal that satisfies our requirements. So a request for proposal. So we haven't necessarily shortlisted it, but with some of the members of the council, we've identified a few different agencies that are familiar with blockchain, that are familiar with the industry, who we are likely to issue it to. However, I guess for the community and the people who watch this, all 10 of you, is that we're not just, it doesn't have to be an agency. It doesn't. It can be an independent contractor who presents an offer. And that offer, as long as it hits our requirements or hits what we're looking for, and that's within our budget, which will be listed in the RFP, then you have equal rights, seriously. So whether it's an agency or an individual, we are going to issue the RFP into the community, and we are going to issue it to agencies and maybe other venues or avenues or channels. So an RFP, it's our requirements. We issue it to a marketing agency. They give us the proposals back. We assess those proposals, and then we narrow it down to a short list of individuals or agencies that we are interested to move to the next phase. We then move to interviews. So we'll invite them to come and talk to either the council or a subcommittee of the council, who then will interview each of our shortlisted agencies, will respond to questions or whatever. And then through that process, we essentially select, I don't know what we want to call it, a winner of that RFP. And then we engage them. And I think a very key point is to be able to engage an agency or individual. You need to enter into a contract. And this is a critical point. To enter into a contract, you need to be able to sign something. To be able to sign something, you need to be an entity or have legal status, which we do not. We as the I mean, as amazing and supportive as the foundation has been, and so much that they have done to kind of get Wrong's idea out and pay support development teams to kind of make his dream real, they are not in a position to be able to sign stuff such as this or exchange listings. It is imperative that we as a cyber republic have an entity with individuals with signature authority to be able to enter into contracts, to engage. And we cannot do that right now.
It's a good point. You are jumping a little bit ahead. I'm gonna try and chair this as best as I can. But no, it's a good point. I think you know, the immediate question may be, well, hang on, we had CR regions. You know, we had Clarence. He was signing things, but I guess we'll touch on it a bit later. But what he could sign was very limited due to whatever legal reasons, and that's why I think we're going to talk. We'll spend a lot of time talking about it. It's the DAO. You know, registering a DAO in Wyoming, Vermont, wherever it is. It's a big topic. It's something we're actively speaking about within the council and the community as well. But we'll come to that, Troy. We'll come to that. Let's keep going on the vision a little bit.
All right,
you know,
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just getting excited.
We spoke about.
Getting excited.
Maybe I'll quickly summarize, because I know you're very, very passionate about the legal entity, because in your mind, you know, everything grinds to a halt unless we have that legal entity to really push forward the big things. But we'll come to that. We'll come to that. I guess if I quickly could just summarize, what else is our vision? I think we spoke about marketing, and it's all about bringing utility to the platform. But there's the other end as well, right? The user base. So not necessarily just investors, but end users. How do we attract individuals? Because, you know, even to this day, it's the tech stack, the vision, what is Elastos trying to do? It's highly complex, right? You're basically rebuilding the internet in a decentralized manner. You're taking away rights that we've almost lost to big tech companies, our data, our privacy. We want to take that back, and that's what Elastos is trying to do, is build that infrastructure that allows developers to come in and build those applications that end users can then use. So another big thing we're trying to do is educate the masses on what is Elastos. So we've had a few cheeky little infographics around why Elastos is better than some other projects. We won't necessarily name them, but
those were good. Those were good infographics. That stuff you pulled together.
No, nice. Inspired by Chris. He came up with the elephant in the room concept a few months back. I think another community member, Yasir, he expanded on it a bit about a story. So more to come there. So all inspiration from the community, and it's a community project, and it's really helpful. And I think we've done a couple of videos introducing the Cyber Republic and what is Elastos high level. We did that mashup with that phenomenal community video that's been going around. But I think next steps, more to come, guys. But it's very much, we're going to start looking at breaking down the different components of Elastos and how to use some of them. So a lot more.
Yeah, you got this software, right? And it's like this kind of doodle whiteboard sort of.
I do. You know what? Another community member, again, I'm going to shout him out, Nick Neal, or Nick Neal X. He's done some phenomenal intro videos or infographics. I don't know what you call them. I'm not a creative person at all, but as I looked at that, I found some inspiration, looked across different software. I found one, and it's great. It lets you do all sorts of different things, and doodles is one of them. Our next video is going to be a doodle. So yeah, look forward to that community, and we will be sharing that hopefully soon. But what's the other big thing? I think communication and transparency. I think, Troy, you've spoken a lot about it. The community's spoken a lot about it. It is one of our running platforms. And I think we were able to demonstrate that, right, along with other council members in terms of what we push to do with everyone's support. So yeah, maybe you want to talk a bit about that. What were our commitments and what have we been able to materialize so far in terms of open communication and transparency?
Yeah, I think when was it? It was several months ago. And it's a bit sensitive, but it's when I just remember it because it's when the way I'm going to articulate it was coined. The phrase was coined, which I think it was the stool, the three legs of the stool.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was when sort of Orchard had sent out a proposal or an idea or more a suggestion of this charity group that would sort of manage the remainder of the foundation funds, while it was still a belief or understanding that the foundation was going to dissolve, which is still a discussion that's being had. Now, it was through that discussion within the community where I think actually Chris, as part of Orchard, was talking about the three prongs of the stool, which is you have the community, you have which is the Republic, Cyber Republic. You have the foundation, which is kind of, the signatory holders of the money that's then, helping and support the core team. And Fakul, what's the third?
The Cyber Republic.
Well, that's yeah.
Oh, you're talking about.
So one's the community, one's the council, and one's the sort of the foundation and all the core teams. So absolutely right, you had it right. Those are the three prongs. And just as a community member at the time, because at the time we weren't on the council. There was just this sort of sense or feeling that there was a lack of to use a business term, synergy between these groups. There was a lack of communication. There was a lack of cohesiveness, a lack of working together and working in the same direction. Listening to the various interviews where all of them would come together on Clubhouse, or kind of reading the various updates that were happening. It just seemed like everybody was either unaware of what was happening within each of the legs, or they were aware and just choosing to ignore and move in their own direction. There was just this lack of direction for the three to be moving in as one. And I think that can really hurt, because I mean, yes, it's three legs, but at the end of the day, this is really one group. We're all should be striving towards the same goal, the same objective. We're all one. And it just wasn't there. And so you and I, we kind of ran on this idea, given our backgrounds within operations, running large teams, having to deal across a global sort of remit, meaning individuals of different backgrounds and kind of different ways of doing things. We've grown to be able to sort of operate in that kind of environment. So we felt, you and I, we had a skill set that could be used to kind of tackle this issue, this issue of, I don't know how to, like, communication. And you said, well, what have we done about it? It's only been a month, maybe a month.
And if it was longer, the month
not for me.
Volunteered for or got stuck in. I spent countless hours. But
well, from that perspective, yes, but it's fun. Fun.
I enjoy it. It's we wouldn't do it unless we believed it and we enjoyed it, and it's very much a passion.
Sure. So what have we done? I feel we've created consistency for at least the council to come together. We're all 12 sort of parties as part of this council. So certainly we all sort of have our ideas of how things should happen and how things should come together. And we all need to respect our individual ideas. And kind of proposing and being able to bring the 12 together to create that consistency, I think was a really big win. Because what it does do is it allows each of the groups or each of the parties members to kind of voice their opinion. We immediately, I think it was Ryan who actually created it, so props to him, immediately created that Telegram group and invited all the members together, which was amazing, right? Like, we're all engaged, but it's really amazing some of the stuff that he's done. I mean, ELA nodes, he's going to do this DEX. There's a lot happening. I mean, seriously, superstar. Pulling together this Telegram group. But the thing is you can only communicate so much over chat. And you can only get through so much so quickly. By bringing people together on a call with some relative consistency, you can really bottom things out much more quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the first two things that we did. And it was through that first meeting, we all agreed to have bi-weekly meetings. We've agreed to kind of produce minutes to those meetings. We've agreed to be completely transparent as much as we can with our meeting agendas. I think with our agendas, we can show whatever we're talking about. But with the meeting minutes, we're releasing those to the community or public as well. There may be instances where topics need to be censored. We haven't had any of that yet. And I think there will be few topics where we need to, but nonetheless, reserve the right. But we're getting together and we're communicating, which is one of the things we were hoping to accomplish, and we've done that. And everybody on the council really has been doing such a great job with joining in, participating in those discussions, bringing their ideas to the table. I mean, imagine how difficult it is to bring a group of 12 individuals from across the globe, from the West Coast of California to the Middle America, to East Coast, to Europe, all the way over to China. And I mean, people just making sacrifices, 7 a.m., 10 p.m. meetings that last 2 hours. I mean, it's great to see. So I think we've tackled one piece to the 3 legs, which is getting at least the council together. There's still the other 2 legs. And I think we're starting to do it. We've proposed and we hope to achieve to bring council member community questions into the council. So every 2 meetings, so once a month. Well, Foucault, why don't you talk about that actually?
Yeah, so I think the first council meeting was great, and I think we probably achieved more than we thought we would. The level of cooperation shown was phenomenal. So props to each and every council member. I think communication was a big thing. Putting together the agenda really helps. It's a lot to get through. 2 hours goes very fast. Sometimes we can't finish it, but what is it that we do? So we kind of scour suggestions, proposals out there, what's the sentiment in the community, and that's what we do to put together the agenda. So we spent the first meeting very much thanking the old council. They did a phenomenal job. There was a lot of focus around the tokenomics, the refactor, the burn. It's been for the better. I think in the long term, making ELA a deflationary currency only makes sense, and because it becomes more valuable over time, especially in this world of where we're starting to see hyperinflation, especially with the most prominent fiat currency that's out there, USD. But we'll see what happens. But also suggestions. We looked a lot at suggestions, a lot at proposals. If I was to touch on a few of them. We've spoken about the NFT marketplace, the upcoming Web3 summit, exchange listings. Yes, we are talking about exchange listings, everyone. We can't go into too much detail now. A lot of it is behind NDAs. We're also been speaking about the DAO. We had this idea of trying to leverage some of the guardians to try and get feedback from the community, specifically in regards to questions that would then be posted to the council, and then we would look to respond. So again, all in the manner of trying to be as open and as transparent as possible. I did actually get a question, Troy, from a prominent community member. I won't name him, but he said, it's great you send an agenda in minutes, but why is there such a delay in the minutes? And it's all about, the formal way of maintaining meeting minutes and ratifying them. And Troy, I think you've chaired the meetings. Phenomenal job. Feedback's been great, and I think we've been asked to chair a few more before we start rotating. But can you elaborate a little bit? How do we structure the agenda and then the minutes, and why is there a 2-week delay?
Yeah, happy to. So effectively, we host the meeting. So there is an agenda that's prepared for that meeting. What we then do is we host the meeting and we wait for the next 2 weeks to when our next meeting is. Through that period of 2 weeks, certainly a lot faster than that, but through that period of 2 weeks, the minutes are written up. It's and you sort of alluded to it, but just to hone back in on it, which is the rotation. So Elation Studios has chaired the last 2 meetings. We wrote the minutes for the first one. Rebecca wrote the minutes for the second. Elation will host and write the minutes for the next 2 as part of getting the sort of ironing out the details, getting the kinks out, making it to make it more fluid to then move into a rotation. Our full intention is to have a rotation across each of the council members who will both host or chair a meeting, and then separately there will be an individual who will write the minutes for the meeting. That will be on a rotation schedule, which we've built out. I don't see why we can't share that with the community, so we will. But then to your question, Fakul, or to that community member who asked it. So in that 2-week period, we have the meeting, and then in that 2-week period, we generate the minutes. Before we can release those minutes to the public, it's only proper for those minutes to be reviewed by the other council members before we release it to the public. There may need to be edits or tweaks, or the person who wrote the minutes may have missed something, and so something needs to be added in. So there needs to be a mechanism to allow the council to review the minutes and to approve them. So the minutes, when they get released to the community, we apologize for the delay. It will always and only ever be a 2-week delay. But it's really because we're just wanting to make sure that there's that official kind of approval of the minutes before we release them.
I agree. And that's generally the first thing we talk about in the council meeting is ratifying the minutes from the old one. So I guess just to recap, we tend to share the agenda the same shortly after we've had the council meeting or the following morning. And then those minutes are shared post the meeting after 2 weeks. Okay, cool. So I think, we're
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
Sorry. And just before we move on, one of the things we just passed in the previous council, we're just trying to figure out how we do it, is getting community member questions. Because I talked about the 3 legs, right? And how do we create cohesiveness or communication or between the 3 of us? So while we've somewhat tackled that within the council now, it's now for us to start to think about how we expand out and do that with the other 3 legs or the other 2 legs. So what we agreed as a council in the last meeting is we would on a rotating basis, once a month, we would take questions from the community, three questions. And at the very beginning of the meeting, we would run through those questions as a council. Any council member has the opportunity to respond to it or not, but there would be a response, and those responses would be recorded, and they would then be released into the public, into the community to be heard. And this is kind of one of the first steps we want to take to kind of breaking down whatever that was before of just this, non-cohesiveness. I can't think of other words for this, but it's one of the things we want to do. We're currently just trying to figure out, well, how do we collate and collect the questions? How do those questions get asked within the council? And then how do we release? But rest assured, we care about you and your opinion and what you want to know and what you want to hear about. We care, and we want to hear from you. So we're just trying to figure out how. We will do it soon.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's important to remember, right? At the end of the day, we're elected council members, right? Elected by the community. If it's not for the community, we wouldn't be elected. And we all run on our own platform. We all have our own belief systems, and we'll all approve proposals as we see them based on our own opinions. And I'd like to think that's how the community voted us in, because they have a flavor of how we think and how we feel, and they have put the trust in us to effectively almost vote on their behalf. There is obviously, after a proposal is voted through, there is a community mechanism where you can shoot it down. But I think the community is important, and if people have in other ways that they'd like to try and connect with the council, please feel free to reach out through any of the social media platforms. But we're very keen to stay connected and talk to everyone.
I know we wanted to cut it's at a certain point. Why don't we give ourselves a few more minutes, 10 more minutes? And
we've got a lot to talk about. I think we've definitely run over. I think we're going for 45 minutes, and we've just about got halfway through, and it's been more or less 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'll talk less. I'll talk less.
Fair enough. But look, let's and I think a great example of something we all agreed on was we're seriously looking at suggestions, and where we feel a suggestion is solidly written, it makes sense, and there could be support behind the council. And again, just a reminder, each council votes themselves. We've invited those individuals that have put forward their suggestions to come to the meeting and speak about it. And a great example is Peter, who's going to come and present on the NFT idea that he's put forward in the upcoming council meeting. So again, please, everyone, if you have a great idea, it's great to speak about it in the community chats, but it's always better to post it as a suggestion, because it means it's officially there. It means council members and other community members will read it. They're not going to miss it. It's easy to miss a message in the community chat. It's harder when it's posted as a suggestion, and you get people adding comments. You can always refine your suggestion, but ultimately you need to put forward a suggestion, or else it won't ever become a proposal and you won't see change. So that mechanism is very important. Okay, TT, am I good to carry on?
Yes, please, but speak up just a little bit, because I think you might be just a little soft for folks.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's the old web camera. Okay, so I think let's talk about interactions. I think we spent a lot of time, but we've very much enjoyed it. But maybe, obviously we can't go into too much detail, but we've had a lot of meetings with different council members, and they've been very insightful. We've very much enjoyed it. You know, if I think back, one of the first meetings we had post the initial council meeting was, you know, we caught up with Orchard, you know, as a fellow council member here in the UK. It was good to touch base with those guys. We also caught up with Feng and Zhang on around compliance. Some of you may have seen those tweets, but that was a very insightful meeting, and it was good to get an understanding of what's going on. And again, they were looking for some of our, you know, advice and expertise. And then we caught up with Donnie, didn't we? Everyone knows Donnie. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, Troy, Donnie?
Yeah. I mean, I had alluded to it earlier when I was referencing the request for proposal for that marketing or awareness campaign. So Donnie has some background or education in elements of marketing. I myself studied it a little bit within school. So I mean, I majored in finance, but I had a minor in marketing. So I knew a little bit about kind of what's going on. But we thought, given Donnie's background, given his experience with Elastos, we thought he would be a good sort of starting point while we sort of kind of smooth out the rough edges of the RFP. I'd say it's maybe nearly there. I'd say it's probably nearly there. Yeah, so we had a really fruitful conversation. I still haven't found my notes. Kind of what were the key points. Of course, there's like influencer elements. There's articles, there's I don't know, conferences, there's all sorts of stuff that we want to get engaged in. You know, we have the tech circus, which Orchard in an amazing way has really pulled together in a partnership, I forget with the group they've been working with, but pulling together Web3. It's that kind of stuff that we've looked or want to include within the RFP, and Donnie had some really good ideas. He had some good feedback for some of the stuff that we had raised. It was a really fruitful conversation. I can't find the notes, so that will be that. But yeah, it was good.
No, it's good, and you know, we caught up with Clarence to understand a bit more about how CI region operates, the DAO, some of those challenges. That was really
yeah.
cool. You know, we spoke about our meeting with Wrong and Orchard. Again, that was great. But maybe let's talk a bit, you know, let's just talk a bit more about some of the meetings. And what I mean by that is, it isn't just the bi-weeklies we have right now, right? We've got a couple of subgroups running. We've got the Web3 subgroup, which is being led by Orchard. And so that's very much focusing on how do we get the Elastos brand out there, you know, part of the Web3 conversations. And, you know, the tech circus is the first one that we're looking at. But then there's also the CR funding working group, right? So I think it's very known, you know, a lot of the challenges that we saw last year around proposals not necessarily being approved was because of the immediate concerns that the downward pressure it would apply on the LR price, right? It's already trading well below where it should be. And as you know, as you pay for things effectively, you know, through proposals, it only, you know, you're releasing those tokens on the market. Generally, you know, those agents that are executing on proposals, you know, they need to exchange those into fiat, right, to pay for things. And so it became a bit of a cycle that unfortunately resulted in proposals that really should have gotten through not getting through because of that risk. So I think, you know, we spoke a lot about that in the most recent council meeting, and we've created this this break-off funding group, and we've got some really strong talent in there. I think you know, it's great. I think, you know, you're on the summit group, I'm on the funding group, so you know, we will strive to add value where we can. But yeah, you know, you guys in the community, you should hear a lot more. You know, we'll be talking a bit more about it in upcoming meetings. So yeah, keep an eye out for those meetings and that agenda. So what else, Troy? Anything else you want to touch on?
Um, Anything else that I would like to touch on? I mean, we've covered so much.
A
I mean,
lot.
in our next video, I would like to get it a lot more into depth of kind of what are the conversations we're having in the council, like what are the topics and kind of what's being discussed, more kind of specifically. I think this was really just really good introductory video for us.
Yeah.
You know, we want the community to know who we are, who Elation Studios is, what we represent, what we're trying to achieve, and really the steps of which we're trying to go about to do it. We have, I mean, for cool, Fox, we've laid out a very, not aggressive, what's the word I'm looking for? Ambitious plan.
Very ambitious, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I sometimes look at the commitments we made on our website and everything else we've been roped into through the council, which is great. And there's a lot to do, right? There's a lot to do, but it's all things that need to get done. And,
Yep.
you know, we're used to rolling up our sleeves. We're used to working with global teams. You know, we haven't even spoken about some of the voting reforms we want to look at, but we'll save that for another meeting.
Yep.
Another catch up.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think with, oh God, what else is there? And
I mean, I'd love to say, actually, this is really good. I'd love to say our eastern part of the council committee has really been really engaged. Like, yeah. I thought that there would really be challenges with language barrier or kind of cultural kind of barriers. But they've I mean, like, it's been great, really, with several of them.
They've been on it, right? They've really engaged and been very open and discussed a lot. And look, shout out to Cassie, right? Who's joined all the meetings. The council wants to help translate. And oh, you know what? We haven't even spoken about the open secretary position. I think that's a good segue. Let's spend a couple of minutes on that, and then maybe we should wrap up. You know, there's the open suggestion out there. We need a secretary general. Rebecca's the current incumbent. But she's made, you know, as a elected council member, she's looking to step away from that. Cassie's come forward. She's written a very well written suggestion. It's out there for people to comment on. You know, I think it's fair to say that anyone can come forward. So if you're interested in the role, feel free to post a suggestion. I won't go into the details, but I know, Troy, there was some debate around the scope of what the Secretary General should be. And I actually think it's important to define that a little bit, because, you know, if I go back to the CR white paper, and you know I love doing that, you know, you got to go back to the white paper. It defines two separate entities. There's the CR Secretariat, and then there's the Secretary General. So they're actually two separate entities. It can be done by one individual, but generally the Secretariat reports into the Secretary General, and it's the Secretary General that generally you need, and that's, you know, voted in by the CR Council, and then the Secretary General, based on the requirements of the CR Council and their vision of the role, will then go and create a secretariat team. You know, it could be writers, it could be translators, it could be specialists. You know, they can secure budget for if there's a proposal and we need to bring in third-party tech specialist or security specialist to give their views to help the council make judgment on certain proposals, etc. You know, that's required. So it's actually it's almost two separate entities. But generally, you know, if for those that haven't looked at it, you know, I would strongly encourage you to look at Cassie's suggestion. She'd be the Secretary General. She's going to have a team behind her, and she's proposing doing a number of different things. You know, there's the monthly update, translation, etc. But I actually plan to give our feedback on the suggestion today. I think there's a couple more things I personally would like to see scoped into that, and, you know, as necessary, the budget amended. But I think it goes without saying we need to appoint a secretary sooner rather than later, right? Because you need that to help move things along. You know, that person's the gatekeeper of the funds ultimately and tracking of milestones. I don't know, Trey, is there anything you want to add to that?
I mean, Cassie's done a lot for the foundation over the years. She's been a part of the community. She's well regarded, well respected. So I was really happy, and she's very committed of her time,
Yes.
meaning she's open to joining meetings and providing kind of the joining of the East and the West through that language barrier. So it's great. I think she's great. To your point around scope of the proposal and what she's proposed to fall in scope of her remit as the secretariat, I would like to have seen maybe a little more expanded. I'd like to see more there, specifically around, chairing the meeting or taking minutes, not necessarily the secretariat, but having the team that's available over there to do it.
Managing the Cyber Republic platforms, I think that's a big thing, and it's a big bugbear of the community, right? I think if you look at the Cyber Republic website, it hasn't been touched in a year. There's been no development.
The social platforms.
There's been no blog posts on the Cyber Republic website. The Twitter handle hasn't been used in over a year. The YouTube channel's gone down, unfortunately. And I think we need that, right? Like it goes back to the awareness piece.
Yeah.
We need to get awareness of not just Elastos, but the Cyber Republic out there, so people can understand we're light years ahead of what a DAO should be. We're at that place. Unfortunately, the external legal framework hasn't necessarily caught up, but it's something we're actively working on. But I personally think, and I know you agree, we need the social media platforms to be run.
Yeah, and look, again, I want to re-emphasize how great I think Cassie is and what she's done, but specific to the proposal, and even more specific to the value that's being put against what's being committed within that scope, I think is, I can't reconcile it. Now, it's been discussed within the council, and I think my view isn't necessarily the only view, but I think it is the minority view, which is fine. But when I think about it, I think the Secretariat General role is part-time, as it is for all our council members. It's part-time. And
I think it's important. We did clarify a point on that, because I think we brought that up, and we weren't the only council member that piece. But I think Cassie did provide some clarity, especially in that suggestion around, it's a 60K budget, but it doesn't just all go to the Secretary General. It's split out. Some is paid for the writers, for the translators, etc. And I think, maybe a little bit less than half goes to her. But it still comes back to your point, it's for the amount that is being asked for versus what is going to be produced. There is a little disconnect with some of those aspects, and maybe it can easily be reconciled, right? I think if the suggestion breaks it out a bit more, just so we can understand, okay, what exactly is this individual or that individual going to do? How many hours are they going to commit?
But to put it frankly, she doesn't need to, because there is no other proposal right now running for the Secretariat.
That's true.
Again, I think she's going to do really well in the role. This is the kind of second year, the second year we've had a Secretariat. This is the first year that we've had a Secretariat that actually pulls a proposal together and puts it forward as a suggestion. So look, this is like any organization or entity. We shouldn't call ourselves an organization, because we're not. We're a DAO. So it's a curve, and this is year 2 of 100. So 50 years from now, we are going to be rocking and rolling, everybody.
I don't know if I'll still be around in 50 years, but I'm sure the community will.
Well, I hope you are. I hope you are.
But no, I think, look, Cassie's suggestion is great. It's the best one out there. It's the only one out there. I think it's fair to say if she gets through, we'll have no qualms. We're supporting.
No, not at all. Absolutely.
What we'd like to see is the Secretary General do a bit more. Now, if that means you got a further budget, then so be it. But I think there's certain things, and it will come out, right, as we talk more about the DAO, certain responsibilities that need to be undertaken. We'll go into that in detail in another video, but we're operations people, right? We need to make sure things are operating, and you need individuals and roles and responsibilities to be able to do that. So I think on that note, Troy, we've gone over an hour. I see you sipping the whiskey. I think it's about time we start to wind down. Again, I just want to thank the whole community. Your support's been phenomenal. We're loving what we're doing right now. We will continue to give it our best and interact with everyone as much as we can. But I don't know, TT, Troy, any closing thoughts from you?
Quote? No, I don't do quotes.
No, closing thoughts, not quotes.
Oh, closing thoughts, which conceivably could be a quote.
You could give a good quote, yeah.
I'll bring a closing thought quote next time.
Shunjon and Chris, they like a good quote.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, not this time. I don't know. Closing thoughts would be thank you again. So Fakul opened this call up with a thank you, and from me, a most gracious thank you. We couldn't be here if it wasn't for you. We hope to serve you. We hope to, with open minds and ears, listen to you and hear you and what you're asking for. It may not seem like we're sort of driving into sort of the heart or core of your issue, but we are listening and hearing it, and I think we may be coming to it in a roundabout way. Have faith. It's a really good council this year. It really is. Representatives from the past to representatives from kind of the foundation to we have influencers, we have a hedge fund, ourselves. It's a really good council this year, and I really think we're going to achieve a lot. I do. Whether that's from a quantity or quality perspective, I do.
Yeah.
Please just hang in there, continue to give your support. It's a really strong community, Elastos. It really is. As far as Elation Studios is concerned, I really hope we meet or even exceed your expectations.
We can only try. But I'm going to quickly plug the new website. I know I touched on it, but please do check it out, elationstudios.net. It's very much focused on what is our vision. We list it very clear. We give milestone updates on how things are progressing, but also media, right? Our artwork that we've put together, our videos, as well as community videos and community artwork, because there's some amazing stuff out there. So thanks, everyone. And then more recently, I haven't actually sent out a tweet yet, but we've added a section around press, so where individuals have done interviews, either written or videos. It's all been added to the website. So, please have a look, enjoy, and thank you, everyone. I think, so how often we're doing these, Troy?
Oh, I don't know. But based off the social media call out that you just gave, I just want to let everybody know that Fakul's really excited about our social platforms and kind of how well some of the tweets do. He'll send me messages of the impressions that each tweet gets and how many views and stuff. It would make him so excited if in your next the Elation Studios next tweet or video or whatever, if you looked at it and you shared it and you retweeted it, which is the same thing, and commented, he'd get super excited.
I do enjoy it. I do, the hard work pays off. I think one of them got over 10,000 impressions. Amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
It's,
I mean, I think the most impressions I've had in my own personal tweet was maybe 2. So me and my mother. So
coming from someone who didn't have Twitter 3 months ago.
That's true. You did not have Twitter. You got Twitter purely for Elastos.
Purely for Elastos. I did. I created a Twitter account as a community member.
Yeah, not even Elation. You created your own Twitter so that you could follow Wrong and Sunny and everybody else.
It's well
done. Well done.
I used to be anti-social media, but yeah.
All right. So the question you asked: how frequently are we going to do these? I mean, what if I don't know, bi-weekly, weekly? What are you thinking? Every day.
every day. I don't know. My wife's already not too happy about that, but
Right.
Let's go for bi-weekly. I think,
Under promise, over deliver.
under
I like
promise,
it.
over deliver. I think, what did we say? At least the bi-weekly update, ideally in video form, and then weekly artwork or video tutorial, etc.
Wow, weekly. That's ambitious.
I you know me, Troy. I aim for the stars. But as long as we have time, right? There's a lot going on with the council and we're getting involved, and some of that takes priority over what we're looking to do, and it's very much a balancing act. But no, I think we've been, very active, and we're going to continue doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, as far as takeaways from here, we talk about the biweekly updates, we talk about the educational or graphic or infographic videos. I think the real thing here is just transparency. We want, and we're not the only ones on the council, but we want transparency, and we want to give that to you. We will give that to you. So stay tuned.
cool. Well, look, thanks, Troy. Thanks, everyone, and hopefully we'll speak again. Cheers, Troy.
Thanks. Bye.